Hey guys, it's Rebecca Mara here. I'm an intuitive coach, a human, an energy healer, and a body worker. And I wanted to talk to you today about EFT, emotional release therapy, with Pat Jackman. In my experience, I did a 5-day course with them, and the work itself I was drawn to because I'm a body worker, an energy worker, and I live in Boulder, Colorado, where there are nothing but a sea of healers here. So we've got the best of trauma therapists and energy healers and shamans and ayahuasca shamans and wow, what else is there? Every kind of healing modality that you can imagine is here. It's like a hub. And somehow I was not able to find someone that could crack through a lot of my walls. And so I was kind of wasting money and not feeling like anyone was getting to me as much as I wanted them to be able to. There was armoring in my system that I couldn't get to, and nor could anyone else, no matter what I tried. So I found, and I think I was randomly Googling this or YouTubing, because it's one of my favorite ways to learn. And I found this, and I had one session that was similar to it, where I was just fascinated by it. And the guy that did it moved out of town, and I was like, where do I get this? I want to learn this work. It's so powerful. So the reason why I chose it was because it bypasses all of your cognitive stuff. So there's no mental defense, no psychological bypassing that can happen. It's working with the body, which is the most honest part of ourselves. Our bodies and our energy are completely honest. There's nothing that can be hidden there. And so with the depth of this work, it forces the tension that's been held in the body to be released, and it's through a lot of pressure, a lot of physical manipulation and force, combined with almost like a holotropic breath work, where the breath goes right into the point of tension. The breath and the awareness go right into there to really dial up the energy flow, and then there is stimulation, like physical stimulation, to get wild stuff out of the body. And I would say that it was incredible and super awesome, the stuff that came out of my body. During this, like, we all had developed quite a lot of trust with each other. I think maybe like 10 or 12 of us. And we would check in, and there was this big heart space connected, and kind of a oneness field in this heart space that was available to all of us in that process. And we would do these check-ins, and there wasn't a lot of talk. It was just hands-on, which really works for me because I hate most workshops, because I can't sit there and listen to someone blab for that long. I just want to like be in it and do the work, and that's exactly what that was. We also got to stay in her beautiful property, which has a bunch of different like cabins, and it has quince trees and pear trees and a beautiful garden and a pond, and all along the street there are blueberries you can pick and grapes you can pick, and beautiful Sonoma County. And Pat herself has an incredible sense of humor. It's hilarious. So one moment you could be screaming while you're releasing something, and the next we're just like all laughing. It's super funny and kind of punchy, but it's really, really deep work, and I think that humor balances it out a lot. So some examples of things that I experienced, the first thing that comes to mind is in my shoulder. I've had this tension for a really long time, and I know that it's emotional. I know it's a trauma spot, and they were manipulating it really hard, and it was excruciating. This part in particular is way more intense than other places for me. And I kind of like yelled, and then I started bawling, and there was this part of me that it was like a 5-year-old part of me that was just bawling about something really hurtful that my mom said to me. And I didn't even remember that memory until it came out. And it was really cool to have access to that. It feels real. It's so much more real than like being in our heads and whatever. And it's nice to liberate the body of these tensions. So the philosophy is that wherever there is tension in the body, there is also emotional tension. So where that tension lies, there is always an emotion connected to it, or a reaction to a direct experience of something that happened. So we have a direct experience, it's too overwhelming for us, or we don't have enough love or seeing or support to move through it. And so then the body creates layers of protection around it, of tension, emotional and physical tension, in order to protect us, so that we don't have to be with the pain, whether emotional or physical, that's too much. So this is where that tension gets buried, and it may never come out for the rest of your life unless you're actually doing a lot of work to clear that. So the point of bringing these things up and letting them release through the body is not psychological, but you can bring in the inner child work at the end to give that part that got wounded the things that it needed that it didn't get. So maybe it needed to just be seen, or maybe it just needed a hand to hold, or maybe it just needed a hug, or to have someone see its pain and let it know that it was okay. Okay, I'm going to go back to what happens in the body. Layers and layers and layers of emotional and physical tension start to build over time. There's a story about us coming in with a bowl of light when we first enter the world. We're innocent, we're pure, we don't have any traumas, and from being human, we all get traumatized. Even if it's small stuff that psychologically is like, I shouldn't be upset about that. It still gets held in the body. Because we're animals, and we don't normally get to discharge in our culture the emotion that an animal would be able to move through its system. So if you know anything about Peter Levine's work, if you watch maybe a deer that got chased, it's going to run first, and then if it gets attacked, it's going to freeze, and that protects it from the pain, that freeze response, the playing dead response. And if it gets away, it's going to shake to discharge that tension from the nervous system. However, in our culture, in our conditioned reality, we don't have the opportunity to do what we would have done when we were toddlers. So we don't have the space to release the emotion. It's not okay. We don't have ways that we discharge it through our body naturally. A lot of our parents told us not to cry or not to express anger or whatever, but it still gets buried in the body because we're animals. So we come in with this bowl of light that's totally pure, and then over time it ends up getting full, and we are less and less and less alive. Our capacity for both pain and pleasure gets diminished. So the point of dumping this bowl out and clearing out a lot of those old traumas and emotions that are stored in the body is that then you have a greater capacity to feel alive. You have a greater capacity to love yourself and other people, and you have a greater capacity to feel pleasure in your body. So the areas where I had tension, what I released was, and this is like, you almost don't have control over it. I mean, you have to allow it to some extent, but the stuff is getting triggered on such a visceral level that you almost don't have control. So sometimes I would be like roaring like a beast, like, no. Sometimes I would be just bawling with the deepest grief. Sometimes I would go through this whole process of like bawling and then laughing. But the thing is, you're not merged with it because it's just a somatic experience. So psychologically, you're not being a victim. So like maybe I like bawl my head off and there's snot everywhere, and then I look up and I'm like, that was awesome. So it sounds scary, but it's not scary. It's really cool, and we all we're really happy about the process. So every sound that could be made came out of me, whether it was like ecstatic or deep grief or anger or whatever, it all came out. And on the other side, when they worked in areas where I don't have tension, I was in bliss. I was feeling like kundalini flowing through me and spirit moving through me, and I was like cooing and humming and just like so connected. So there's both, right? Like, so that's part of the reason why it's nice to move the tension out of our bodies, because we can move spirit through our body. We can move more of God, more of source and life through our bodies, more love, more light. That is the juicy, exciting part about it. That's kind of the point. And it's also to meet those inner children with love where the process never got completed for them. It never got the love that it wanted. So just to give you a little bit of a thing about how it physically works is it's a lot of like feeling the physical pain that under pressure, like they'll kind of flick these nerve endings or points, and under the pressure you feel the physical pain and dive underneath the physical pain to feel the emotional pain. And you're not looking for it with your head, you're bringing all your awareness and presence into it, along with your breath, to help whatever that thing is move. It's like rescuing our little orphans and being like, come on baby, I got you now, you can liberate you. It's sort of like liberating the ghosts within ourselves and returning them back to love or back to the divine. So I think that this work is super incredible, and it really works with getting past defenses that are really solid, and we're really sophisticated protectors against really bad abuse and trauma, or just anything. It gives us so much more access to ourselves because our body holds so much more of our unconscious than you're aware of. It's probably, I would say that our conscious awareness is like 1% of what is actually happening in us. And the more that I discover how much bigger and more immense we are, and how much more we hold within ourselves, both painful and exquisitely blissful, the more alive we feel and just in awe of life. And it takes a little bit of moving out of our conditioning and moving into uncomfortable places to explore our capacity for both pain and pleasure, which is really just being in direct experience with life itself. I think that Pat is amazing, and I love her partner Kamala, and the space that they hold for people to make them feel comfortable is amazing, and the community that you experience in one of her retreats is so wonderful. I actually felt really down after I came back home because I was missing having breakfast, lunch, and dinner with funny people that are really real and really candid about their humanness. One other thing that was really cool is that one of the girls whose YouTube video I saw, she's Soulful Taz on YouTube. I watched her video and I posted on my Facebook page where I was like, okay guys, I'm going to this like intense training. I put that on Facebook, and she ended up being in my cabin with me, and it was a great experience. So yeah, thumbs up to Pat and to the EFT work. Absolutely. I feel like this is stuff that's really, really needed in our world, and it helps bypass all the cognitive stuff and to get what's really being held in that tender little animal body out, to be healed and loved. So thanks for listening, and if you want to know more about me, check out samadhimindbody.com. Have a wonderful day.